Yo, what's up, everybody? January 12th, 2021. And you know what that means? That means that tomorrow the season starts. Not just any season, not the all get out record titled The Season. No. The NHL season is about to be upon us. 24 hours until the puck fucking drops. And I'm so pumped, but I'm also super pumped that we've got our homie Seth from Sleave chilling with us. Seth, man, what's going on? How stoked are you that we finally get some hockey back again?
Dude, I'm pretty fucking stoked. I will say this. I know my team plays Boston first. I'm not fucking stoked about that, but
No,
I am stoked for hockey to be back.
Yeah, man. It feels like hockey just left us, but this period of time where we didn't have it just like really bummed me out. And now I kind of feel like we're getting spoiled because, it's going to go back to normal after the end of this season where we have like a real gap, in between, seasons. Right. So I'm happy that we get this back so quickly. So before we get into hockey talk, let's talk about Sleave a little bit. So, Richmond, Virginia, a rich as hell, kind of mecca for great alternative music, punk rock and stuff. That's where you guys hail from. We'll obviously we'll say the DC area, RVA kind of deal, which is awesome. What got Sleeve started, in this kind of stratosphere? How did you become a part of the band? How did this all kind of become?
Cool. I'm super stoked I get to tell the story because I'm probably the worst one to tell it. I'm actually the newest member of Sleeve. I've been about a year now, but I've told this story enough, so I've got the history down pretty good.
Yeah, you got it down. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I came to join Sleeve after we used to throw shows in my house all the time. It would get pretty big. We'd do them pretty regularly, and Sleeve ended up opening for one of those shows. I didn't even know who they were at the time. And as I try to, as somebody who plays in bands in Richmond, we're all pretty close, pretty tight knit. We all kind of know each other. We all kind of listen to each other's stuff. We try to, support each other. But this was a band that I hadn't heard of, and which was weird to me. So I was like, okay, well, let me do some digging if they're going to be playing in my living room. So I found some of their stuff on Bandcamp, and I really fucked with it. And I was like, damn, these guys are sick. I'm super stoked to hear this. And so they ended up playing this show. I got really close to them. They're all super cool guys, super sweet. And so I kind of just developed a relationship with that. I booked them some more shows down the road, and we played more shows together in the band I was playing in at the time. And then eventually that band I was in kind of filled out. We weren't really doing anything. We weren't feeling it. So we kind of called it quits, and Sleeve needed a bass player, and timing just kind of worked. I was like, well, hey, I know you guys. I've played some shows with you. You seem super cool. So I hopped in. But Sleeve's actually been going since about 2014, 2015 without me. Wow, okay. So they've been kicking it for a while. Yeah, they've been kicking it for a while. They, like I said, they've released, an EP and like a little like 2-song thing on Bandcamp, which are both really sick. But they really didn't kind of really pop in, on Richmond's marker until, I joined, which has nothing to do with it. It's because they dropped their debut album, I guess our debut album, Don't Expect Anything, and things kind of just took off from there. So we've kind of just been riding the wave until COVID put us down. But
yeah, man, it's such a bummer. Now, Don't Expect Anything. I know that came out last year. Were you part of the creative process for that record?
So I was not. I went into it totally blind. They'd actually been sitting on the record for about a year.
Wow.
Even after I joined. And yeah, they were like, hey, we've put a lot of time into this. We're finally ready to put it out. And I was like, cool. So I learned all the songs. We started writing more as you do. And we put it out, and we just kind of had no idea what was coming. I mean, that little record in a year has got us almost, 20,000 followers on Instagram, 500,000 streams. We've toured outside of the country. it's done some crazy things, and I'm really excited. We've actually just started recording LP number 2, so I actually was in the studio Sunday tracking some
Great.
bass. So
Sweet.
hustle doesn't stop.
Yeah, man. Of course. Now, so that's really exciting to hear that you guys are tracking now. So just kind of interested. I know you said you had gone overseas. Is that how you ended up developing the relationship with Engineer? Because I know they're based out of the UK, and they put out your record.
Yep. Yeah, we are signed to Engineer Records. Shout out to Adam and his team over there across the seas. But oddly enough, it's not really how we got to be with him. I know when I joined, the reason they put it off so long was because I know Charlie, our vocalist and guitar player, was trying to shop the record out to anyone and everyone who will listen. And
yeah, sure, of course.
And so, it got some interesting things, and, people were interested in it, I guess, but, Adam from Engineer really loved it. He really backed it, and he really wanted to work with us. And, we sat down and we talked with him directly, over like FaceTime and stuff a couple times. And we kind of realized that, this is a guy that genuinely does like appreciate the band and what we're doing. And he really wants to see us succeed. So, he might not be like the biggest, craziest label, but it's a stepping stone, just like anything else, when you're doing music. So we took a chance. We kind of went with him, and he's done some really fucking awesome shit for us. I mean, he's great. We love him.
Awesome. Now I know, like I said, Engineer is based in the UK. Are they, are you releasing this new record that you're tracking now with them? Do they have like a distribution arm in America as well, or is your relationship with Engineer specifically overseas?
So most of his, most of his pull is overseas, but he does have, he does work in the U.S. as well. He is partnered with a company. Shout out to them to Mike with Earshot Media.
Okay.
I want to say they're in California, but I could be wrong. But they together handle most of the distribution, most of the promotion in the States. So they kind of take the reins on that with him, and he kind of handles everything else across the pond.
Cool. That's awesome. Having listened to Don't Expect Anything, really pretty, like a pretty diverse listen. Now, I found like a promo photo of all you guys, and I think someone's wearing a Get Up Kids shirt, and then I think you were wearing like a King 9 shirt, if I remember correctly. So I'm kind of interested to hear,
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm kind of interested to hear like of how Sleave comes together with all of those different influences. So from all different sides of the musical spectrum, how do you feel like your influence, like if you're more of like the guy that's more into hardcore, how does it fit into the overall scheme of things?
It's definitely weird. Like you said, we're very, very diverse. I know exactly the picture you're talking about, and I love it because if you look at that picture, if you base it off just the band shirts, it doesn't look like something that should work, but it does. Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. We all listen to, I think it's safe to say we all kind of listen and appreciate all kind of music, but definitely me and Charlie are more into hardcore, more into some heavier types of music. Julian, our drummer, is really into punk and things like that, 90s punk, things like that. And our other guitar player, Danny, he's kind of, he's hard to peg down. I feel like he's just genuinely the kind of person that could vibe to anything if you put it on for 10 seconds. So yeah. We're definitely all different in our own little ways, but I think when we come together, we all kind of have a goal. And I know, Charlie does, we all kind of help and pitch in, but I know when it comes to writing, Charlie is, he's a madman. He'll put, if he told me I had to write a whole 12-song record in, a day, he could probably come up with something. He's
It's
madman, but he's kind of the forefront. You know, he writes a lot of lyrics, and you know he'll bring these little rough demos of things he's been jamming and things he's been fucking with, you know, practice and things like that, and we'll all just kind of throw in our hats and whatever ideas come to mind, we'll just toss them out there and try it and trial and error, and this works, it doesn't. Eventually, that's how a Sleeve song is born.
sweet.
Now, you know, Seth, we were talking with Travis from the band Telltale, and he was talking about like the DIY, you know, house shows in Richmond, and you kind of brought that up a couple of minutes ago about how you were involved in booking house shows. Like, is that really a huge part of the Richmond music scene?
It is. I think. I mean, it's a huge part. It really is. You know, we'll have bands coming to tour, and it's crazy because I'm realizing, you know, the more bands I tour with, the more people I meet through music, that you know, house shows aren't quite as prevalent in other areas. Because to me, you know, I guess I'm so used to it. I think, oh, this is like the norm. This is how it is everywhere, and it's not. You know, we've had so many bands come through Richmond, and they're like, you know, oh, we're not playing, you know, Canal, or we're not playing Strange Matter when I was a thing, or you know, we're not playing, you know, this venue or blah blah blah. And it's like, no, you don't get it. Like the house shows where it's at. That's people will flock to that. You know, I'm not throwing any shade on those venues. I've played all of them, and I love all of them.
Yeah,
They do great things, but house shows are definitely like the king of all kings in Richmond. I feel like everyone goes to the house shows. Everyone gets buck wild at the house shows and goes ape shit, and it's wild, and it's always a fun time. So
yeah.
it's very personal. You know, like, there's no barricade, there's no nothing. You're just there with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because being from Long Island, where Mikey and I grew up, you know, obviously he's in Charlotte, I'm in Orlando now, so two different very different areas, I should say. But on Long Island, at least when I was growing up, the like house show scene started to dwindle, and I think a lot of it is because Long Island is just a very populous area, and everything is very condensed, you know, so. Because there's not a lot of space, there's not really a lot of areas you could have a house show without getting like the show shut down by the cops or noise complaints or all this bullshit. Right. And there were a couple of really cool like DIY venues, one of which, you know, I've talked about on our show before, but one of my really good friends, his dad owned a wood shop, like an actual wood shop where he would like make cabinets and stuff. And in this like kind of industrial area, they had this huge room that they used to have for like a showroom that they stopped using. So it was like, you know, a carpeted floor. So what we ended up doing was we built a stage, like a small stage for it, and we just started having shows there. But because there was no one around to complain, it worked really well. Everyone was super, you know, aware of the space and what it meant. So no one would be assholes and no one would start fights or any of that kind of stuff. And we got a good couple of years out of it. But Long Island as a whole kind of had to move away from that because anytime you'd like start something, like you'd get a couple of shows in, and before you know it, cops, threats, and all this bullshit, which really sucks because like that was a rich culture on Long Island back, with Long Island hardcore in the 90s and stuff, but it kind of stopped being an option. So it's awesome to know that like you guys, in Richmond are still able to do it. Because it's important, and especially now, it's more important than ever. Because when we come back from all of this, who knows what venues are going to be open, what venues aren't going to be open. So, having house shows, when we could do it safely, of course, is going to be a real huge contributor in smaller bands still being able to go on the road and make a little bit of money and put some stuff in their pocket. Because, I mean, a small band, I hate to say it, like you're not going to show up to DC and play like the 930 Club. Like it's not, it's not happening. So
right,
we don't want to take that away from people. So the fact that there are still house shows is super important, and it's like unbelievably important.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, the cops are definitely an issue. We've had a couple run-ins with them in our
Yeah,
heyday, but for the most part, we had cool neighbors. Shout out to our neighbors, but they,
there
I
you go.
mean, we'd knock on. I mean, I remember writing letters, knocking on all the doors, just like, "Hey, we'll be done by 11.
Yep.
Please don't call the cops. If there's any problems, like, just please call us."
I
And
know.
for the most part, I mean, aside from one show, we went just a little bit over. We never really had any issues.
Good, 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 good. Yeah. And I think, and that's a super important thing, because as long as people are able to be respectful, and again, as long as people understand the how important these DIY venues are, and people aren't going out of their way to, there's no delicate way to say it, be assholes. Then you've got a good community, and I've always heard that about Richmond.
Right.
I've got a really really close friend of mine who grew up on Long Island, now lives in Richmond, and he works at a barbershop, and that's one of the things he talks about, ad nauseum, is just how great the community is and how good it is that people are coming together to keep this kind of ethic alive, which is really important.
For sure. We try to keep our reputation clean sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, Seth, I guess my question is then, as kind of like a follow-up question, who is like one of the like up and coming acts, or like, an act that you're like, man, this band's about to be huge, that you booked for one of your house shows and then like ended up going on to blow the hell up?
Well, so it was actually the second to last show we did, and it was kind of the wake-up call that I think we need to have a break from it. We kind of skipped the middleman on that. We actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Waster from the UK,
I'm
but
not.
we had them play in our living room. So I wasn't really too aware of them. So the way I found out about them and the way this Project X of a house show came to be that I'm about to tell you guys is we have a good buddy, Kenny Lewis. Shout out to Kenny. He played a show in a band called the Weekend Classic at our house. That's kind of how we met him. Super sick band, but they ended up breaking up, and so Kenny got into tour managing, and he tour manages a lot of Hopeless Records bands. So whenever he's in town, whatever band he's with, we kind of just let them crash at our house, and we meet these people, and they'll usually let us come to their shows for free, which is sick. And this one band called Waster, who was on tour with Neck Deep, maybe I want to say this had been almost 3 years ago, in like September, and they were playing the National with Neck Deep. We let them stay at our house. They were really cool with them, and Kane was like, "Yeah, obviously y'all can come to the show for free," which was sick. And so we talked to them, and they were telling us about how every year in the UK, I guess they do a Halloween like house show thing where everyone dresses up in costume, and they found the whole thing. They were super bummed because this year was the first year I guess they'd be on tour over here, and they wouldn't be able to do it. And kind of as a joke, we were just kind of like, "Oh, we do house shows. Like, fuck it, let's do it here." As a joke, not taking it seriously. And they were like, "Oh, dude, that'd be super sick." And we're like, "Oh yeah, I guess it would be." And then the next day at the National, packed out, one of the biggest venues. These fucking guys up on stage, they do their set, and at the end of the set, they're like, "If you like what you hear, we'll be back in Richmond on Halloween, playing a house show right here." And I just remember standing there with my roommates, and when he said that, we all just kind of looked at each other like, come on, this is a joke. And then short shit, like a couple weeks later, we're getting emails from their legitimate manager asking about details of this house show, and we're like, "Holy shit, this is happening." So we booked the show, and the band they were on tour with, I guess their bass player. Do you guys remember? You might not. I did. It was another thing I didn't really know about either. Do you remember the show on MTV? It was on a while ago. It was called Teen Wolf.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't really watch
I
it.
think I remember it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the bass player of the band they were on tour with was Teen Wolf.
Oh
So
shit.
we got that guy in our house. We have this big band from the UK in our house. We were like, this is going to be a big ass show. We might need to like sell like a cap or something. So we were like, okay, we'll let 80 people in our house. We got wristbands. We did the whole 9 yards, right? So we're out there, we're getting ready. Everyone's dressed up. Everyone's in costumes. And when I say there was like a line around our block to get into our backyard, like we ran out of those 80 wristbands before any bands had even played. And there ended up being about 200 people in total in our house. I don't know how the hell we didn't get shut down. I don't know how the cops didn't get called. I don't know how there was no complaints, but it went off without a hitch. So
Love it.
I would say that's probably those are probably the two bands that played our house that are going places. But it was definitely crazy. And I know we played. I guess I'll keep a little more fair and give them a shout to. There's a band from Richmond called Fanfare, and they played their first ever show in Richmond. That was their first show, that crazy ass house show, and which was super sick because that's a band I think is definitely gonna go places. They're a bunch of young kids. I mean, they're all. I mean, I think most of them were in high school when they played that show at our house, and I think they're all like 19, 18 now, maybe 20. But they're growing up. They're getting pretty big in Richmond. They've been on a couple tours. They played a bunch of shows, a bunch of bands coming through. They're super sick. So if anyone's in the mood for a new band to check out, you should check out Fanfare.
Absolutely. I feel like that's like the common theme of the past couple of years of doing this podcast is just how much new music I've been checking out. So I'm down to check them out for sure.
Right. Yeah, I can name drop Richmond all day. I can make a whole damn podcast out of it, but we won't do all that.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like you have like real love for the city of Richmond, but in one of your lyrics, you kind of throw a little shade at your hometown. So is that just kind of like the stereotypical like pop punk kind of lyric, or
I can not quite. We so that can actually be explained. So I am from Richmond, and I love Richmond. I live and die by this city. I think everything about it's great. I love it. I mean, I can't myself anywhere else. But Charlie is from Virginia Beach, so a little bit of internal conflict in the Sleave camp on that one. But he's actually from Virginia Beach. He's from Newport News in that area. So I know that lyric you're talking about, and we won't get into it, but that's kind of what it's about. Charlie didn't have too much love for the city when he first moved down here, but I mean, I understand. Like I said, Sleeve's been a band for almost 5 years now, maybe more, but they really didn't take off until Don't Expect Anything came out. And I think that's partially not because of me, but I think I might have helped a little bit. I know up until they played that show at our house, from what he had told me, they played, a lot of shows here and there at the Camel with, some, random bands that are, not as big or not as coming up. It's kind of, I think there's so many different, I hate using the term music scenes, but I think there's so many different music scenes in Richmond that it's possible to not, be in the right one. Like you could be playing shows for years to a group of people, and you're thinking, why do they not give a shit? Well, they might not. And, you gotta find your crowd and your audience out of
just don't go into the bar scene, I guess.
And I think I kind of was like, hey, yeah. I kind of when I first joined, I was like, hey, I think you guys should check in with these bands that I know, just because they're obviously my friends' bands, and I like to help them out. But I was like, I think this is the crowd that is definitely the fit for us now as a band, and okay, and so we started getting into that, and it's like it is, we got more people coming to shows, people started knowing who we were, people started getting interested, and then we dropped the record, and that really helped. So I think the distaste for Richmond is only because I think there was a little bit of just confusion, because I know Richmond's a very weird place if you're not from here. So I think you kind of got to know how it works. And I kind of know how it works. I was like, hey, let's try something different. And it ended up working out. So I think now we all agree we love it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's understandable. I mean, when you're from a place that has a different speed, that's a little bit different in terms of the culture. Obviously, it's it's a little bit of a shock trying to get used to something that is markedly different for you. But speaking of things that are a little different, so we're talking about all the love that you have for Richmond. So you would probably assume that having love for Richmond would mean that right over next door you're a huge Caps fan. So we could talk all about Ovi and Backstrom, and whoa, hard stop, New Jersey Devils fan. So I don't know, that's strange. Let's talk about it. So how does that happen?
Yep. So my mom's actually from Jersey, and I have a lot of family in Jersey. I love very much, and I basically kind of got into hockey when I was about 9 years old. I had a neighbor growing up with. They had a son who I was pretty good friends with, and he was playing hockey, just like league down at this little rink, and we went to watch him play one of his games. And my family was like, "Oh, we'll support him. He's your friend." And I remember going there and watching him, and I wasn't really too athletic, like as a young child. Like, I go outside, or like I didn't do any sports or anything like that. I'm like, I just remember watching him play. I'm like, by the end of the game, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I love this. And then it just kind of got me into it. And from the time I was 9 to about 20, I played pretty regularly, pretty competitively, and it just kind of spawned my love for the NHL and professional hockey. And I figured, it's where my mom's from, it's where I got family. I'll ride with New Jersey, and it's a very hard, long road being a Devils fan.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But you had your cups, so I don't feel bad for fans who've had some tough years when in your lifetime you had multiple Stanley Cups. Like, Tom and I are Islander fans, so you're not going to get any sympathy from us. Like, you're not going to get
it. Right.
Telling it how it is,
man. We have a buddy. He's actually the drummer of my old band, Grant. He was a big Dallas fan, so I was hoping and praying that Dallas would have pulled it out this past season, just for him, so he could have that win. But man,
Lightning are just too good of a team, and I mean, and we're kind of lucky, us being Devils and Islanders fans, that with the division realignment, we don't have to play them 8 times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that they're going to make the playoffs, and I'm sure they have to deal with them, and it's not going to be pretty because that team is just absolutely off the chain. But so as far as like Devils games are concerned, do you try to catch the Devils like whenever they kind of roll into DC, or have you have you been back to Jersey and the Rock and seen seen games there, or like how do you try to catch him when you can?
So, truth be told, and I'm so ashamed, I'm never going to go to a Devils game yet. I had the cards aligned to go to one right before COVID, and then that happened, and it kind of changed the game. I have a buddy who moved. I had a buddy who moved to New Jersey. Him and his now wife, they moved to Jersey, and I was gonna go. So his wife is a Flyers fan, and he's a Pittsburgh fan. I don't like talking about that too much, but they go to Pittsburgh Flyers games all the time, and the cards aligned where I had a chance to go up there with them, and they're like, "Hey, like if you can make it, let's get tickets and let's go." I can't remember. I think they might have been playing. Philly. I think that's why they wanted to go. But I was like, "Yeah, for sure, let's do it." And we were lining everything up, about to get the tickets and pull the trigger, and then the world kind of stopped. So I haven't had the chance yet. But one of these days, as soon as COVID done, I don't care if I make the drive. I'm gonna get to a game.
Hell yeah!
Now, when we were talking to Alex Howard from Conditions, another Richmond band, he was mentioning how minor league hockey, had a team in Richmond area. Were you too young to catch games when Richmond had a team?
I was not too young. That's one of the only live hockey games I ever had a chance to go to was the Richmond local team. We had the River Dogs, and then they rebranded, and then we had the Renegades, and it was great. One of those games were some of the best games. I just remember, because at that time I was still playing. I know the league I played with had a deal with them where we all the players got to go to the game free and shit, which is awesome. And I remember being there with my dad and my and the teams and stuff, and it was always a fun time. And the games were always rowdy. The fans were always loud and rowdy and screaming. And I remember every time they used to do this thing, if a player Patrick, everyone got 10 free wings at Hooters, so that was pretty fucking kick-ass.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a sweet deal. That's better than what the Islanders did.
But yeah,
if the Islanders scored
games.
Yeah, if the Islanders scored 5 goals, they would give you a cup of chili at Wendy's, which is 99 cents. Where a dude scores a hat trick, you're getting 10 wings from Hooters. That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, it sure is. And I mean, Wendy's chili, yeah. I don't know. It's mostly water anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I can't remember if everyone got wings. I think it was maybe for a few people.
It reminds me of the of that scene in Semi-Pro
Wendy's
where
that's sick.
Where he's like, oh, if the Tropics score over 110 points, everyone gets a free corn dog, and Jackie Moon's like, we don't even got a corn dog. He's trying to block his own player. I love it, man. I'm all about anything Will Ferrell touches. To be honest with you, a lot of people throw him shade, but I'm not one of those people. I love him to death. So, to kind of back into this Devils fandom a little bit.
Will Ferrell shade.
Good. I mean, good. I definitely don't want you to, but a lot of people do. It's so strange. A lot of people are like, oh, Will Ferrell, he's not even that funny. He did the cowbell skit. That's the only good thing he had. And, I don't buy into that. I think he's got some great depth. Depth probably isn't the right word. He doesn't really have depth, but he's funny as fuck. But, so just to kind of lock into some more of this Devils fandom. So what would you say, you've had the opportunity to experience, some cup wins and stuff like that, which is great. So, do you have a specific Devils memory that just you have a story about, or that kind of sticks out in your mind that, really kind of cements your love for the team?
Oh, man. I do, and it's kind of lame, but I do. I remember the reason, the moment I guess would be I was playing. I was a kid, and it was right when I had gotten into hockey. I just started playing. I just into the sport, and I remember I bought NHL. Shit, it was probably 2009. And I remember always playing as the Devils, and I remember Scott Gomez, who's not even on the Devils anymore. But I just remember I'd always play as him. He was my favorite fucking player, and I would score 10 goals with him every time. And I was like, this guy's sick. I picked a good team. I'm ready. Of course, I'm probably 10 or 11 at this point, but I'm like, this is it. I'm good. This is my team. And I don't even think Scott Gomez, I think last time I heard anything, I think he was on the Rangers, and I think I don't know where he's at now, but he's now on the
Oh no,
Devils, and I don't have that great of a team. But
now I have a great Scott Gomez story that I've already told on the podcast, but I got the pleasure of meeting Scott Gomez when I was in Nashville, Tennessee, catching an Islanders game. So after Gomez hung up the skates, he actually became like the power play coach for the Islanders. And I was in town to catch the Islanders game and ended up going to the same restaurant as Scott Gomez. And, Scott Gomez has a very distinct look. Like he's a shorter guy. He's got a bald head. And like, it was like very easy to recognize him. Like, even though I wasn't necessarily a Devils fan or Rangers fan growing up, like I still knew who Scott Gomez was. And like, I'm like standing next to him and I'm like, all right, I'm going to say like, what's up to him. So I'm like, hey, Scott, what's going on? And like, he's like, no, I'm not Scott. I'm like, no, like you're Scott Gomez, right? Like I knew it was fucking Scott Gomez. And he's like, no, I'm not Scott Gomez. I don't know who that is. And I was like, oh, all right, well, enjoy your dinner. Like, and left him alone. Like maybe he has a twin that like is running around the world. Like maybe this is not really Scott Gomez. And then like, no exaggeration, about like a minute later, he comes up to me again. And I'm like, what's this guy want now? Like I left him alone. Like, why is he like coming up to me again? He's like, I'm fucking Scott Gomez. Like, what like, like really, guy? Like, of course I'm Scott Gomez. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, nice to meet you, Scott. And like, he ends up like having at least a 15-minute conversation with like me, my wife, and like some of the friends that I'm there with. Turns out to be the nicest guy, like actually asking me questions about like me as a person, not like just like, hey, glad you're a fan, like BS that he could have said, but like was like legit, like, hey, you guys in town for the game? Like, what are you guys doing tonight? Like, really just an awesome dude. Ends the conversation by going like, hey, I want to give you family passes for the game tomorrow. Like, write your name down on this napkin. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I write my name down on a bar napkin, like that he got a pen from the waitress. And I'm like, yeah, this is never happening, but like, whatever. I still got to meet Scott Gomez. Long story short, go to the game the next day, and he did leave family passes for us. So like, Scott Gomez is like up here for me. Like he's a real homie. So cool that you got to bring up Scott Gomez so I can tell that story again.
That's a kick-ass story. That's insane.
Yeah, it was kind of like just right place, right time. And like, maybe if he had one more beer that night, he would have lost that beer napkin. So like the fact that he held on to that that bar napkin is it's kind of special.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So I do kind of want to bring up how I got Sleave on my radar, and it ties back to our homies in Out of Time. And you mentioned before we started to record that you became friends with those guys because of they came up to Richmond and played one of your house shows. Now, when did you guys like hit it off? Like, was hockey brought up? Like, because all those guys are huge hockey fans, and like, was that a conversation that you had that kind of made you guys homies?
I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, because it's crazy to think that it feels like that show was yesterday, but I guess it's been almost a year, which is so insane. But I know we all got on the subject. Me and all them got on the subject of talking about hockey for a little bit. I want to say I mentioned I'm a Devils fan. I turned them off a little bit, but yeah, I know we talked about hockey a little bit, and we talked about. I'm trying to remember because I did have a couple of drinks that night, but I know we talked about a lot of stuff. I just remember we had merch tables set up right next to each other. I think that's kind of what initiated a lot of the conversation. Was just like, "Hi, we're like merch neighbors. Like, what's up?" And we kind of started talking to them, getting to them a little better, and yeah, they're just really sick, super awesome guys. Can't wait for COVID stuff to eventually come to an end so we can see them again and play some more shows with them because it's been too long.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, you also did kind of hint that you had like 500,000 streams this past year. Like, that's super impressive. So, like, what is on the horizon for Sleeve? Like, with 500,000 streams, I'm sure that you're getting the attention of some labels and things like that. So, like, are you going to shop this next LP out to different labels, or are you going to do more of the DIY kind of stuff?
It's kind of up in the air right now. I know we're definitely hoping to do that. I think the main goal is we're kind of just at the point where it's like, this is what we love to do. We're gonna keep doing it. I think we're gonna release the record, try to shop it out as much as we can. Hopefully something can happen by the time shows come back. I know we had a lot of labels that when Charlie was first reaching out to them before they put out Don't Expect Anything, I know a lot of labels kind of all got back to him with the same kind of thing of like, hey, like, your music's sick, but you just don't really have that level of a following that we kind of look for in a band. And I think, as crazy as it is, in a year, I think we've kind of broken that glass barrier a little bit. So hopefully, I guess the plan now is just finish LP2, shop it out, see whoever bites. Hope something cool can come of it. But even if it doesn't, I mean, we're going to put it out and we're going to keep touring all the same until you just repeat the process.
Now, you mentioned LP2. Are you recording with anyone in particular? Or are you guys doing some of the pre-production and stuff like that on your own?
So we kind of got a weekend together to just kind of get away, and we kind of demoed everything out that we had. But all of the recording, shout out, we do with Pedro at Audio Recording. So shout out to Pedro and what he does. He's super sick, super fun to work with. He's just music, and he's awesome.
Now, is he a local producer, like a local Richmond producer?
Yeah, he's local to Richmond. He actually has played in a bunch of Richmond bands in his own right. He's played Fun Size and Beretta. The list goes on. Shot Clock. He's played a lot of Richmond punk bands, and he's awesome. He's just a rock and roll dad with a kick-ass studio, and he knows how to record. So he's awesome. He's really fun to work with.
So as far as LP2 is concerned, sonically, what should we expect? Not to be punny, but first release is called Don't Expect Anything, but I kind of want to know what we should expect for LP2. So like as far as sonically, as far as like songwriting is concerned, what should we expect? Like, is it going to kind of fall in line with that first record, or is it going to be a little bit different? Is it going to be edgier, harder? What are you guys trying to really cultivate with the second record?
Right. I think it's definitely, the record's definitely going to have just that like kind of trademark Sleave-ish sound that Don't Expect Anything had. But I think as far as this one goes, I think it will end up in the long run being a little bit different. I think it's going to be like a little bit heavier, not necessarily in the sense of just like harder riffs and like breakdowns and shit. I think the lyrics go a little bit deeper. I think You know, some of the riffs are a little bit harder and grimier, I think. But I think the overall tone of this record, to me personally, it doesn't feel, if I could describe it any way, it doesn't feel as maybe bright as Don't Expect Anything. I think this record's going to be a little bit darker, a little bit edgier. But I hope people will really like it. So far, I love it, and I think it's gonna. And I love Don't Expect Anything. I think that it's a great record, but I think this one's really gonna take the bar
Sure.
up another notch.
Hell yeah. Now, is there a particular track that, like, when the record comes out, like, as listeners, like, you feel is like the standout track of the record, like the one that just slaps like the most? Is there a particular track on the record that we should like be looking out for?
There definitely is. The problem is it doesn't exactly have a name right now. We still have the working title for it. But there's definitely one on there that I think it'll probably end up being one of the singles. It's my personal favorite just because, you know, I love, you know, rock, hardcore. I love the heavier stuff. It's one of the more faster, more aggressive songs on the record. It's got like a cool little breakdown thing we're throwing in there, and I think it'll really catch people's eyes. But I think that one's definitely going to be the one that kind of gets people to like, oh shit, okay, and then they'll listen to the rest of it and hopefully think it's also good.
For sure. Love it. Well, Seth, man, I really enjoyed our conversation and getting to chat with you and get to know a little more about the Richmond scene. It sounds like a place that I definitely want to check a show out. And I was actually talking with Tom on our end of the year episode about how the band Conditions was like extremely underrated. And the few times that I got to see Conditions was, you know, in New York or at like, you know, kind of like a DIY venue space where I felt like I didn't get the full Conditions experience. And like, if Conditions ever does any like form of a reunion tour, I feel like I need to go back to like Richmond to catch a hometown show, because it does sound like there's just a nice music community there, and it's not too far from Charlotte. Like I can make that drive, you know, in 5-6 hours, whatever it may be. Not too bad. So definitely enjoyed hearing more about Richmond and its DIY culture. And you know, like Tom mentioned, man, that might be what saves the alternative music scene, is going back to kind of that grassroots movement. And, you know, unfortunately, some of these smaller cap size venues might not survive this pandemic, but like having people like yourself who are willing to put up these touring musicians in your house, like that could be the alternative that saves this genre of music.
Medium, yeah, definitely.
I'd like to think we definitely, you know, I mean, we try to help as much as we can. You know, we'll always offer a band a place to stay on tour if they need it. You know, whatever we can do to help, we'll do it, because, you know, we get it. You know, I think a lot of us, you know, we tour, we're in the same fucking boat. We know how it feels to be miles and miles from your bed, and you just played a show to 3 people who didn't really give a shit. And you know how, you know, it's tough when you play a show like that or something doesn't go right and you're like, shit, I 3 more weeks of this. So anything we can do when a band comes to Richmond to hopefully give them a kick-ass show and make their time here a little bit better and lift them up, you know, we'll try to do it always. That's what it's about. You gotta look out for each other. You gotta take care of each other.
Yeah, man, that you couldn't have said it any better. So I got one last question for you, and then we'll let you go enjoy the rest of your evening. But so being from Richmond and being into hardcore, I'm just assuming that you're going to have a great Down to Nothing story to tell me about. So have at it.
All right. I do actually. Coincidentally enough,
See, I knew that you would.
I don't know if this counts as a down nothing story. So down nothing headline the show. It wasn't during down nothing set.
Okay.
It was at Strange Matter when that was still around. RIP. What a great venue. But I want to say it was during Blind Justice set. Strange Matter is really tight. It's really compact. It's small, and you got dudes that are just killing each other as you do at the hardcore shows. And I just remember the pit opened up, and as soon as it opened up, I just remember you just heard pew pew pow, and like somebody just lit fireworks in the middle of the pit, and they were just going crazy. And the band kind of stopped playing. Everybody kind of stopped moving. We were all just kind of looking at it, and then it stopped, and we were all just kind of like, "Where do we go from here?" And before we could even think, the sweet little old lady who used to own Strange Matter shoves her way through all of these, 6 foot tall bearded tatted dudes, and I've never even heard her speak out of all the years I've been going to Strange and seeing shows there. I just saw her poke her head out in the middle of the pit, and she's picked up that little firework and she threw it in the trash, and then she just literally looked out at everybody. Not a word was said, and she said, "If I hear one more pop, I'm gonna kick all your asses, and I'm gonna throw all of you out, and I'm not gonna feel bad about anything."
Incredible.
Probably the most wild down nothing story that I have was the fireworks in the pit.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't top that. That's pretty outrageous.
I love it, man. That's fantastic. Seth, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you giving us an hour of your time, chatting with us, and learning a little bit more about your Devils fandom and the great things going on with Sleave. So looking forward, obviously, to the season that, for the purposes of when this episode drops, of course, starts tomorrow. We're both of us, Devils and Islanders, are in a tough division, but what are some bright spots that you're looking forward to for the 2021 Devils team?
Man, this might be a bit of a controversy to some people, but I know we re-signed Blackwood, and personally, I'm kind of happy about it. I know some people that aren't feeling it, but I think Blackwood got a lot of potential, and I think this season, I think if anything holds us down, I think he can do it.
Yeah, and the way that Anna from Fearless Records talks about all these Russian guys, like it sounds like you got a pretty deep prospect pool. She's dropping names that I won't even attempt to say right now because they are ridiculous names.
There's a lot of potential.
Yeah. So, with a shortened, condensed season, man, a lot can happen.
There's some crazy ones.
You can have some crazy upsets. You can definitely, go on a 15, 17 game streak like the Islanders did last year, and that might be enough to just coast you into the playoffs. Like, a lot can happen in a short season, and especially a short season where, there is still a global pandemic going on, and like there is the chance that, half a team could be wiped out because of COVID, and they have to have their B squad come in for an extended period of time. So like we definitely have an unprecedented season ahead of us, and all of us and all of our listeners can all agree that we are willing to compromise a little bit to just have hockey back. And I'm super pumped to be able to watch hockey 3-4 nights a week again. And, I'm like Tom mentioned, I'm excited to see what 2021 has in store for Sleave. And we really do appreciate you coming on here. Hopefully the Devils and Islanders are in the playoffs and we could get you back, and we could get some of our other former Devil fans on here as well, and do a little playoff preview kind of show. And we really do appreciate the time that you gave us tonight. and wish you the best in 2021.
That would definitely be sick. Hopefully, in a perfect world, we'll get that line up in the finals and we can run it back again. But thanks for having me. It was a blast. Thanks everybody listening. Shout out to you two, the best. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Thanks, man. You have a good one.